Story this afternoon, a serious drop in agricultural output leading to a contraction in our economy, in our gross domestic product for the third quarter ending in September. And Tukozo Kumalo is in Tshwane with the latest now, standing by with some of the officials who drafted those statistics. And Tukozo, good afternoon to you. What happened? What do the numbers tell us?
Hi, Stephen. Well, as you just said, that massive drop in agriculture over the period, 28.8% decrease, really what drove that contraction over the third quarter. The stats office saying that if we excluded agriculture, we may have seen, reaching close to that number that economists forecast of a 0.5% growth. But to talk us through those numbers, as usual, Risenga Maluleke is with us, Statistician-General. Thank you so much for talking to us. Now, of course, in the room, the surprise was that agricultural contraction that you announced that really drove the contraction that we saw in the third quarter. Just give us an overview of the numbers, which industries contributed positively to the economy and which ones saw us draw back.
Ntokozo, as always, you know our responsibility is to make numbers available. So we are not as surprised as you are. But let me mention that you can see that there were other industries like finance, real estate, and business services, as well as mining, that grew in the positive, but were not enough to offset what we have seen coming from agriculture and, of course, transport and trade. So transport and trade definitely would not have drawn the economy a lot more lower, as we have seen now. But when you look at agriculture, it's not the contraction in agriculture alone that we should look at. Agriculture contracted by 28.8%, but the biggest issue is the contribution. It contributed negative 0.7 of a percentage point. And of course, that contribution is the one that weighed heavily on the economy to come down in the negative.
And now the two sectors that actually positively contributed to GDP, mining and manufacturing, have for the most part of the year felt pressure, or last year really because of that load shedding, but now coming in and contributing positively. Talk us through what the data pointed to there.
Well, one of the things we know is that manufacturing and mining rely heavily on electricity. And of course, if you look at utilities, as in electricity, gas, and water, we have seen a positive growth as well as a positive contribution, particularly from the production and consumption of electricity. And that feeds into mining as well as in manufacturing, particularly manufacturing of durable, semi-durable, and durable goods.
And on the investment side of the economy, a little bit of positive movement there. Could you give our viewers insights?
One of the things that we have seen in investments, that is gross fixed capital formations, for the last 4 quarters prior to this quarter that we are reporting on, they have been depressed. If you look at the third quarter of 2023, it was a contraction of 4.7%. Fourth quarter, it was a contraction of 0.2%. And we have seen at the beginning of this year, first 2 quarters have gone on contraction. And indeed, this is the first time that we see a movement, and largely in non-residential buildings as well as in other construction works. But of course, when it comes to investments, we still have to wait and see, especially that they have shown quite a bit of pressure for the last 4 quarters prior to this one.
Now, of course, economic growth leads to, denting unemployment in the country. Could you maybe give us insights into what the data pointed to when it comes to government and employment there, how that contributed to the economy on a negative basis?
Let me start off by saying that government is not the only contributor to employment. But in this regard, what we have seen from general government is that there have been a decrease in employment numbers, both at national as well as at provincial level. But when you look at numbers in general for employment, we have seen in the current quarter that we have increased a bit in terms of employment. And of course, we have decreased in unemployment. That's why we have seen the unemployment rate decreasing. But it's because we have a lag. You can't expect the economy to be performing in that quarter and showing increases in employment. So the increases that we have seen, some of them are coming or were recovered from the second quarter from the side of the economy. And of course, what we will be doing is to look at going forward. But one of the things that we know is that come the last quarter of the year, particularly in the first quarter of the year, you are going to have new entrants into the labor markets. Whether they will find jobs or not, it's something else. But one of the things I can always say is that an economy that is not growing sufficiently enough will not be able to create jobs.
Well, as always, Stats General, thank you so much for those insights. Of course, Stephen there, Risenga Maluleke, just giving us some details into the numbers that he delivered for the third quarter GDP numbers. So we are still going to hear the fourth quarter numbers in the new year, with economists, expecting then the annual GDP rate to sit at around 1%. But we know that the country needs at least 4% growth on an annual basis for us to make any real dent in the country's unemployment numbers, new people coming into the labor market, as the Stats General just said, in the fourth quarter and first quarter. So it would be interesting to see then, as the economy contracts, how that then affects employment and, those investments. We did start seeing, Stephen, business and consumer confidence tick up on the back of that easing of load shedding. Haven't seen load shedding since March. So really that's improving the economy, as we saw in the performance of the mining and manufacturing sectors. But clearly still a lot weighing on the economy, Stephen.